Hey there, guys, gals, fans, and pals. Your buddy John Megacycle here. An episode of Evil Bank Manager. This game reminds me a lot of imperialism mixed with corporate machine. It's interesting. It's got a lot of premise. It's a turn-based game. It's non-multiplayer, but you play the role of an evil bank manager who is trying to overthrow the world, control it. There's a couple of ways to do that, but this game has a lot of potential, but I'm going to give you a little bit of an upfront. First of all, there's very little documentation on how to play the game in the game itself. I had to look up a bunch of stuff to figure out how to play it. Second of all, this game needs some serious rebalancing. I'm in the middle of 2021. Not too sure if that's changed, but as it stands right now, this game is enjoyable, it's interesting, and it needs a little bit of training. So I checked out a couple of other YouTubers, and the information that was presented, I just couldn't catch. I couldn't follow. Maybe it's their presentation style. No negatives about it. But I wanted to give it a shake myself. So this is Evil Bank Manager. We're going to start a fresh game. We're not going to play a full game. It's just a singular how-to-play video. I might do a season or two or something after this, but I at least wanted to show you what the game is about and how to play it. Because like I said, a lot of stuff is confusing. So let's just get started. We click New Game. We're presented with 8 nation choices. Each nation, or not nation choices, even though it says nation, but basically every single player, or every single faction, whatever, I know it says nation, but it doesn't feel like nations, comes with 2 bonuses. Well, we have, first of all, the flag, the word bonus. This doesn't matter, but this is what matters. We have, for example, we have the cost of maintaining branches in the country England is 25% lower. Opening new countries costs 25% cheaper. Every single nation has this cost of maintaining branches in country X is lower. So it's an interesting thing. If you already know what kind of a faction you want to play, what kind of a play style you're looking for, that can be a big help. The second thing is a unique bonus to that country or nation or whatever. So opening new countries costs 25% cheaper. I would highly recommend this nation for anyone getting their game started. It makes England easier, cheaper to maintain, and makes opening new countries cheaper. If we check, we have 25% more influence in politics. That's not a bad one. Development of Federal Reserve requires 20% less resources. That's not bad. End of the year, you get 1% of cash. So whatever money you currently have, you get 1% of that for free. We have in regions with a player's branch, troop growth is 20% faster. That's not a bad one. Troops are used when we get to the military and war aspect of the game. Your guard produces 25% more fear. Fear is something, it's a mechanic we'll get to later. The initial capital of the bank is 50% more. That's not bad. If you're not really too sure and you want to be a little more loose on your strategy, that can give you a lot more investment capital. The cost of development departments is 20% lower. We'll talk about departments in a bit. For this game, we're going to start in Britain. Or England, or whatever this flag is. I'm not sure. I really wish it would say what it was. But also there's a word up here that kind of has a very brief idea of what kind of a country it is. So this is a conqueror, because opening new countries is cheaper, maintaining in England is cheaper. It's kind of how it works. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start on, I guess, easy difficulty, just to walk through the mechanics. We're not looking for medium or hard or ultra hard. Let's just start on easy. So the first step to this game is we're going to receive a tutorial and we're going to throw it away. Skip tutorial. You've already done better. Name the bank. Megacycle Entertainment Loan and Trust. That might be too long. How about Megacycle? How about just Megacycle Loan and Trust? There we go. Megacycle Loan and Trust. Done. Now, there's going to be a lot. I'm going to try to take this slow because, like I said, the tutorial walks you through hiring some personnel, and that's it. So, one of the first things we have to do is go to our map in the upper right, click that, and we have to establish a branch office. All these colors that you see on the map are each individual different nations being represented. If we scroll in a little bit, each will have an insignia or a flag that we'll see a little bit more. So like this is Castile, yeah? And we have Portugal. And we have Aragon. And we have France. And we have Navarre. And we have Brittany. And we have England. Gosh, I read that so fast, I thought that said America. Like, America, yeah. The colors represent the territories they hold. So, for the red for England here, this is all of its holdings. Ireland is to the west, and Scotland is to the north. Okay? That's what we have. If we hover over a singular nation, man, the UI scaling on this game is so weird. But if we scroll in, we see 8 territory holdings and the cost to open up a branch office. So if I click on London, England, we have a lot of information about this territory. This country, I have no idea what these stars do, maybe victory points or something, but a summation of the wealth of the country, how many regions it controls, its army if it were to go to war, its investment size. How many things can we invest in that country? Real estate, industry, agriculture, production facilities, all that is summated as investment size. So there's this much economic potential we can invest in. There's currently no competitors. This country summated again down here, available investments and profit. We're not making any money. We don't have a license. We don't have any infrastructure. If the country produces any specific luxury resources, they'll be listed here. I really wish you could hover over any of this and get any information, but you really can't. From left to right, I believe this is... one of this is leather, or it's called skins. Skins are really pelts. So pelts, leather, and gems, I would guess. Each of the 8 regions are broken down here on the right side. East of England, Eastern Ireland, London, Mercia, or America as I called it, Northumbria, Wales, Wessex, West Flanders. Each of them have their own agriculture, production, and real estate levels. You can kind of see how developed a region is based on these levels. If the numbers are really low, that means the territory is underdeveloped. You're not going to get like very large stone mines as an example if the production level's really low. The real estate level is where we're going to build like houses and cottages and mansions and just generic living real estate. Agriculture consists of farmland. So I think the only farm that we really have in this game is just like grain farms or wheat farms or something. But everything's broken down here as a culture. Maximum investment in the territory based on its development levels. Available investments, and these numbers are the same because there's no one else here. Region taxes, any taxes we have to pay. Our investments. Competitor investments. That should be pretty straightforward, right? Back over here, we have an open button with a cost. This is the license we have to pay to start dealing in England. We don't have that kind of cash. We have 75,000 monies. So to start the game, we'll have to start off with a smaller nation. Let's get back to that in a second. Let's talk about the user interface just a little bit more. All of these padlocks on the side of the country means it's locked to us. We can't trade with them. We can't do anything. We don't have that license, remember? At the very bottom, we would have a listing of all the country holdings that we have. All the licenses would be displayed here with our current profits. Again, we don't have anything. Nothing to do. In the upper left, it's broken down by current gold we have in our treasury, any running costs we have due to personnel, any property holdings that we have a value, and any resources have a value. Resources might be stone, iron, gems, grain, wood, stuff like that. Those are just lumped into something called resources. If we push this little button here, we can get a bit of a breakdown each of the ideas up here that are summated. Let's leave that be for now. At the very center of the game, we have our time. Each turn is one season. So some things may happen on a per turn or a per year basis. If it's a per year basis, that means once every 4 turns. So we need to be mindful of that. A good example of that might be growing seasons. When you plant wheat, you only harvest it once a year. You plant it, you let it grow, you harvest it. That's the growing season, happens once a year. So all of our sowing for our wheat fields and our harvesting of the wheat fields will only happen once a year. So we have to pay attention to that. We have science. This is where we'll do our research. We'll get into that a little bit later. Any stats, if we click on this, this will show a complete breakdown of everyone standing based on their total value. Because we played easy, we got 75,000 monies. Harder difficulties will put you at different starting values. Also, if you noticed, one of the nations that we could have played would have also modified that starting money. But right now, this is a nice running total of what we've got so far. And it plays off, it's pretty straightforward. How many countries we have access to, how many regions in total, the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, I believe it's called, and our total value. The IMF is a game mechanic that will allow us to win the game if we control 51% of the IMF. And we'll get to that later. I think we might speed up just so we can experience that, because that's another interesting concept the game doesn't do a good job explaining. War. If there's any wars going on, this is where it would break down, and it would mention any wars that we're a part of. It would bring high attention because we could gain or lose holdings based on the outcome of a war. Countries. This has any countries that we're currently vested in and has it broken down by the country itself, how many regions, available investment, current offers, my property, if we're at war, any competitors of the country, their property, and our running relationship. We'll get to that in a bit. We also have other map overlays here. I'll just click a few for them. So this is with or without the flags. This is if we need to search for any real resources. Oh, furs. I'm sorry, it was skin and furs. And then I think this is... See, the game doesn't do anything telling you what any of this means. So if you just click on this, you can't... It's a little hard to tell what's going on, right? We'll get to more of that later. But right now, I mostly just stay in this one. It shows the working holdings of each area and the territory, and it works nicely. The capital is our base of operations, and this is where the game started us off. This is where we're going to do 90% of the game. We'll break down each of these as we get going, but I want to cover the primary map first. We also have the exchange button. This is where we can buy and sell product. If it's any sort of goods or weapons or luxury product or anything, this is where we can come and buy whatever we need. Now, it might be tempting as you see this stuff to kind of play stock market, but it doesn't quite work that way from my findings. So we have an item, we have a quantity, we have a little slidey bar here, we have a number quantity, we have a price per item, a total price, and then over here we have a forecast. We're currently in turn 0, up at the top if you can see. So this is the forecasted price at turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. This is the only kind of time I ever hover over something and I get any information whatsoever. So you can see the general price of an item is going to go down or up. If I had a bunch of topaz already, it would be fortuitous for me not to buy anymore. Now, if I purchase one skin, I just want one skin. Can I type in here? I can. Okay, I want one skin. I'm going to buy it at 19.6, but the total is 19.58. I don't know why this game doesn't do a lot of good rounding, but I'm going to purchase that. If I go back to sell, it's already half the price. So this game doesn't really allow you to play stock market jockey, which I really wish it did. because I would love to play this a little bit more. But this is a game mechanic that if you're ever going to buy stuff, it's because you need to fill a need and not because you want to be like, oh, buy it on the cheap, sell it on the expensive. It's going to work out great. It doesn't really work. Yeah, I think that's really all I had about that. Let's call that done. What else? Any events are going to pop down here. Who's going to war, if you've completed any research, if any tasks have been completed, if there's any warnings or notifications, it'll pop up here. You close this by this little tiny blue thing right there. Last but not least, we have these, which are quests or tasks. What these will go through is they'll give you like a play-by-play. It's a little bit of a framework to just help you get going. They're not bad. They're pretty helpful. So what goes down is there's the description of the task. So it says, to get more influence points, you need to go to headquarters and hire a manager in espionage tab, 0 of 1. Then the quest itself, hire an employee in the diplomacy department. Now, the funny thing is it says espionage tab and diplomacy department. That kind of makes it a little confusing as a bit of a contradiction of stuff. But we get a reward if we do it. I'm just going to hit next. I don't really care. So that covers everything on the main map. Let's go ahead and check on our capital. In our capital, we have, let's see, what is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 icons on the bottom. And we have 11 icons up top. Oh, actually, we have 10. The Federal Reserve System isn't unlocked, but when it will be, it'll be right here. And that gets unlocked later in the game as another win mechanic, I believe. So, this is where the game gets really complicated unnecessarily. Like, a little bit of tooltip would totally help, but there's nothing here. We have our headquarters. You can either click on the icon here up at the top half of the screen. And it'll zoom you in real clean and crisp. It gives me a little vertigo, but whatever. And it presents our options. We either upgrade the headquarters or manage our staff. I'm going to click off of it and just show you that if you come over here and hover, you can also get the same options here. I'm going to click on headquarters and it brings us to our management staff, which is the exact same as if I hovered over it and clicked here. So double clicking is like clicking the default action for whatever, and it works out real nice. You can just double... Oh. Did I click too fast? What happened there? Huh, okay. Well, that was weird. Anyway, that shows our management staff. The Federal Reserve System is, like I said, mid to late game mechanics. We're not going to worry about it. The game is broken down into 4 departments. That was a phrase that we heard before with one of the starting options. Departments. We have the Espionage Department, the Credits Department, the Guards Department, and the Investment Department. These are the 4 portions of our bank that we hire staff for to do work. Okay? We'll get to those each individually in a bit. With our investment branch or department, we can purchase property. The types of property we can purchase are farms, things that produce goods like grains, industry, like think of a lumber working camp or a stone cutting camp, or a tannery, or something like that. Luxury produces products that are deemed to be very exotic, rare resources like sugar, tobacco, gems, spices, stuff like that. Real estate is, like I mentioned before, property. If you buy a cottage, you accumulate wealth from either renting that cottage or you can flip the property and sell it at a later date for more money, assuming the appreciation went through. Like, assuming the property didn't get bombed or something. I don't know. The last piece of the puzzle here is the Armory. The Armory is responsible for turning raw materials into finished goods, specifically weapons. It takes either wood, iron, or coal and turns it into swords or bows or guns or whatever. Each item has its own value in combat and in the market if we ever need to sell them. Okay? I think that covers most of the user interface. Again, we can either click on one of these top items to get our options, so guards, or we can just hover down here and talk about our guards. Okay? Let's take this one step at a time. We have our headquarters. We already chatted about that. Espionage has upgrade. Go to the espionage department. Locked. This is another action that we're going to discuss a little later. And this is hire staff. Under credits, upgrade. Go to the credits department. Blanked out. Hire staff. Guards. Upgrade. Go to the department. Blanked out. Hire staff. You're starting to see the pattern here, right? For farms, industry, luxury, and real estate, all the options are basically the same. We can upgrade, or we can go see our holdings. So I'll just click on the farm holdings. We don't have any farm holdings. Now, one of the neat things about this user interface is we're in the property area. We can click on industry, real estate, or luxury, and that shows everything that if we were to go to luxury specifically down here, bam. So we can flip around all of our holdings pretty easily. Really quick breakdown. Because of our limit in our property area, we can only have 5 agriculture buildings, which have a total price. We have a cost of sowing in case it costs to grow the crops, and we get resources every year. Industry, same thing. Maximum amount of objects, how many objects we have, their total price, and any production would show up here, and a listing of each individual property would show here. Real estate, again, same thing, but that just generates profit. Luxury, again, if there's anything specialty, we're talking sugar, we're talking tobacco, spices, gems, anything like that. It's not necessary for human survival, but it's a nice thing. It's a luxury. It's a nice thing. That would all show up here. I think we've covered a lot of the basics. Let's start talking about hiring a crew. Now, this is the first thing the tutorial just chucks you in, is just hiring a crew. We can hire a crew from anywhere of like 5 places. So if you see the person with the plus, that's going to take us to about the same menu. Each department, very similar to how farms, industry, luxury, and real estate are broken down. If we go to investment and I hit the plus, it's going to bring us to a screen with, again, our 4 breakdowns, one for each department. We have a department level, which is the level of this specific department. It's all 1 right now because we start at level 1, so that doesn't help. We have how many staff hired versus maximum, so 0 over 1. The salary we pay per the whole department. Our maximum investments, which we're allowed to have based on the efficiency of our staff. The better staff we have, the more investments we can make financially. Credits, same thing, but credits allow us bigger total loans, so that's cool. Espionage, the workers here will generate a resource called influence, we'll use later, and guards will generate a resource called fear. We'll talk about that more later, but let's touch on that a little bit. Fear is actually used to get back money that you've lent if the lender can't pay it back. Think of like a mob that goes and collects. So you went to the mob, you went to a loan shark, you're like, oh, Fat Tony, I need $10,000. And Fat Tony's like, all right, my son, you can have $10,000 for a week. And then you're like, oh, thank you, Fat Tony. You're so great. You're so gracious. Thank you, Fat Tony. And you don't pay the week. We got to send the guards in. So the guards will recoup any losses. For influence, that's used for more interfacing with nations. We'll get more to that later. There's a lot we need to get more to later, but just bear with me. Deep breath. Let's get through this now. We need to hire some staff. You can hire an amateur, a pro, or an expert. Each of them have a different cost in the upper right. For the sake of this, I always go expert, because if we do an amateur, it's 50 gold, a pro, it's 60, an expert, it's 60. We'll hit search. We're searching for one person. We can search for 9 at a time. We're going to search for one person. Each person's skill is broken down into a couple of categories here, a couple of items. We have investments, loans, diplomacy, guard. These are the 4 attributes that make up a person. This person also generates a level of science and costs a certain amount of money to hire. An investment score of 8 is really good to start off with, so we're going to hire him. The reason why diplomacy is highlighted here is because I'm in the diplomacy screen. So let's hire you. Diplomacy, aka espionage. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this game's confusing. Like, it's using the same... For the same department, it's using 3 or 4 names, so bear with me on that. If I click over to credits, that's actually the loan department, and this guy has a score of 2 there. If I go to guards, yep, you figured it out. Score of 3. Let's come over to investment. Yeah, investment is what I want. He has a score of 8. And we're going to add you there. And actually, now that we're here, this number is changed. This is actually the maximum number of investments this person can contribute. So this is actually a really high score. I still need someone for credits, espionage, and guards, though. So let's just do search. This isn't bad, but I want some higher numbers. So I'm just going to do search again. A guard of 6 isn't bad. Let's hire him. Put him into guards. Still need 2 more people. Looking for loans and diplomacy. Oh, that's good for either. I'm going to hire you. Let's see if we can find another either good loan or good diplomacy, and this guy's going to fill the gap. That's garbage. Garbage. Every time I'm clicking on this button, I'm spending 60 monies. But I need someone that's good. Come on, man. There, a diplomacy of 8. That's brilliant. So in our espionage, or diplomacy, the D is highlighted, so I'm going to chuck you in there. And for credits, there's our loan guy. Alright? We now have our departments completely stocked, which is nice. Maximum investments, total loans, influence, and fear are now being created. Everything will be generated at the end of the turn, so there's nothing else for us to do there. But we've hired some staff, and we'll actually be able to start using some of these other mechanics next turn. Let's also talk about one more thing I said we'd talk about later. Let's go ahead back to our personnel tab and see this S. This S is science. Each person generates a certain amount of science, and we're going to use our science in the top over here. Now this is another nice place that is a cool tooltip, otherwise I would have never figured this out. Managers produce science points. Each manager produces 25 science points, and 1 science point for each manager's stat point. So even if you've got someone with really high stats that you're not using, like let's say we have a 10 in loans, and an 8 in guard, a 3 in diplomacy, and a 6 in investments, all those are going to science, so nothing's really wasted. We have production. The 0 represents how many science points we have right now. The 155 is how many we're producing per turn. Let's hover over technology. A technology has a requirement and a bonus. Actually, let's select something that actually has a requirement or a needs. This technology needs another technology called First Step, which is right here. Researching this generates work per turn and rank points. Now, rank points aren't explained in the game at all. 0% is it explained anywhere where this stuff is. Rank points, from the way I understand it, are represented here in your stats. So these will help us stay on top. And I don't know how they affect our total value, but the rank points either help here or at the final scoring when we figure out our final points and we hit the high score. Actually, is there a high score ranking? Here we go. Okay, so just looking here, I beat the game on easy just to give it a test. Turns played, yep, I beat it by an overwhelming IMF share. Backup system progress, not sure what that means. Oh, here, points. So these are the rank points. This is where this is pushed out. So, good to know. Back to science. There's a couple of first technologies that we can have. Everything on the left, and it goes to the right. So as you can see, it's a bit of a tree, sort of a progression. Just keep going and going and going. One way to win the game is through scientific achievement. Let's get all the way to the end here. Whee! The steam turbine. The steam turbine is a technology that will win us the game. Again, we generate science points by getting highly skilled managers in the departments. So keep that in mind. Of the first 4 technologies, let's walk through them. We have First Step, generates 100 influence per turn. Influence is going to help us when we discuss politics with other nations. The Color of Money generates fear per turn. We can use fear to recoup any losses. Like I said, defaulted loans are probably going to be the easiest way to think about how to use fear in the early game. Secure Citadel reduces managers' salaries by 8%. And Search for Loopholes. When selling on the market painting, you get an additional profit of 10%. Not all technologies provide rank points. Or maybe they do. I'm not sure. I thought I saw some before that just don't provide rank points. I think there are some technologies that literally just provide rank points. But some of the technology can be pretty darn interesting depending on when you use it and how you use it. But I'm going to kind of leave this for you to explore. I don't want to get too far into this. I was looking for an example of just rank points, but I guess not. Alright, anyway, back to it. So, what would be a good first step? Well, influence is a great first step. It allows you, like I said, work with other nations. Or, actually, it actually also helps you build up trust with your current nation that you have a license with. Secure Citadel isn't a bad choice. Reduces manager salaries by 8%. Let's see here. Oh, here's a good example. This is one that just adds rank points. Voice of Truth. To me, I'm not super worried about rank points, and when you're playing this game for the first time, I would highly recommend you don't worry about rank points. Rank points are for the winner. So don't worry about that. Secure Citadel's a nice choice. Which is the second one? Amount of investment in properties, 10,000. That's not bad. Generates 500 work per turn. Each open region produces 150 gold per turn. An open region is a region we have a license in. That's considered an open region. So, let's see here. I think I'd like the big game. Now, the cool thing about this is we could click on Secure Citadel, and then the big game after we research it, or we can just click on the big game, and it'll research it like a queue. Same thing if I come all the way here to Saviors. It'll say, okay, what is the easiest one I need? And it'll just go through until we have Saviors. Okay? Let's stick with the big game for now. Now, we've set up everything we need, except we still haven't purchased a region license yet. So let's go back to the map. We're going to need to find a region that is cheap, has a good amount of resiliency economically, and maybe some raw resources. Maybe if we could find some specialty resources. But let's also click on our tasks. Yep, that's 500 monies for me. What's this one? Hire all employees in the credit department. Another 500 monies. Next one, issue 3 loans. We will get to there in a bit, but let's not worry about that quite yet. How's Brittany? 20,000. Furs as a luxury resource, not bad. Available investments, 34,000. Okay, I like that. How about Ireland? Okay, same. 32,000. All right, fairly similar. I guess if I were to recommend to anybody, available investments are a good indicator. Luxury resources. Those are probably the 2 things that might matter the most for a new player. How's Scotland? Okay, more luxury resources. Really nice available investments. We're going to aim for something small. Let's see, the Teutonic Order. A lot of these are looking incredibly similar as a starting region. Oh, can we have Russia? Holy crap. Yeah, no, we'd be bankrupt immediately. Let's scroll it just a little bit. We want, like, singular colors. Okay, so we got gems here. This wouldn't be bad. Ardalan. That's not bad. Now, one of the things we need to consider is we actually chose a nation that allows for a cheaper work out of England. That's a lot of money. We don't have that quite yet, but let's try to pick like a smaller nation and work from there. Portugal would bankrupt us immediately. Marrakesh. Gems is luxury resources right out the gate. Let's start with Marrakesh. I'm going to open. It's going to cost us 20,000 monies. There we go. We have our license. We can sell our license or talk about diplomacy. Let's cover that briefly. Based on how these people, this nation, based on how we've treated them and they've treated us, our diplomacy may falter. We can pay a certain amount of influence to gain a certain amount of favoritism back. There's better screens for that, and we'll get to that a little later. But we've opened up, and we can go back to capital. We've opened up negotiations and a branch office. If we come to espionage and click on its department, this is actually a much better breakdown of how we are treated and are treating this nation. We have Fez. We can grow their agriculture, industry, infrastructure. If I click on that, each individual region can be upgraded to a certain point. Now, this part is also confusing, but action points available is how many actions we can put to upgrading an area. We allocate the points, we hit purchase, and then that region has that new, I guess, improvement level, I'll call it. These are the available investments inside that region. This is the property that we may already have inside that region. This is the profit we are making. We're not going to do any upgrading right now. Game just started. Based on favoritism, if our influence is high enough and our relationship is good enough, we can use this nation to declare war on someone else. We can also say, hey, reduce your costs, which says the property of your competitor will lose its value. Investments will be available in the region. Or we can also suspend competitors' bank activities. This shuts them down for like 10 turns. Now, like I kind of mentioned before, this is a single player only game. And there's, like I said, there's tons of balancing that's needed for this game to ever be multiplayer. When you get to some of the technologies, you'll be like, that's game breaking. That's game breaking level stuff. But again, single player, doesn't much matter. To the very left is war, to the very right is friendship, to the very middle, if we hover over it, shows what our current feels are. Neutrality +3. I believe there's hatred, neutrality, peace, and then like worship. So, there's that. We can spend a certain amount of influence to alter this value, or we can auto-negotiate. We can say, spend this every single turn automatically, get them on our good side, we need them happy. Nothing we need to worry about right now. I think that covers the basics for turn 1. Oh, there is one thing I missed. The Armory. This is where we have the work units. We produce a certain amount of work. We have a certain amount of resources, wood, iron, and coal. Those are then turned into weapons of war. Bow and crossbow require a certain amount of work and a certain amount of lumber. We can set up auto production, which just says, produce this item as much as you can for the resources we have available. If we set this to 1, that's exactly what that means. We'll make all the crossbows we possibly can. I'll set 2 on halberd. First of all, make bows, crossbows, and then halberds until we're out of either wood, work, or iron. It's really hard to see these icons too, but these are work units. This is wood unit, iron unit. How many available, meaning how many are produced. And that's it. We can click order if we want to order some manually, or because I set auto production, we don't have to do anything. We'll make all the crossbows we possibly can, and then all the halberds we possibly can. Cool. Now I think that's turn 1. We're going to hit next turn. Everything delays and passes, ebb and flow, and everything it goes. Now, you might notice that some of these icons have green backgrounds now. That means there's something for us to do. So let's go ahead and talk about investments. Because we have an open license in a country, we have an opportunity to invest in that country. This is the location, Fez Marrakesh. This is what the item is. This is the purchase price of the house, the base price, and what this produces. So this is going to produce gold for us. If I go ahead and hit purchase, the money is removed from our gold. The money is then put into property because we purchased property. And let's go check it out in real estate. Here we go. We have a house. It is a base price of what? It is a sale price of what? It is producing profit per turn. 738 monies just out the gate. Imagine, like I said, we're either renting the house or leasing the house or whatever, but we own the house. That's what that's all about. You're going to be checking investments every single turn. So get familiar with that button. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to give out loans. What good are we as a banking institution if we're not making money on interest, right? That's what I'm saying. So here, again, location, profit per turn, 5.1% of the loan. The percentage of the chance of the loan defaulting, meaning the person doesn't pay it back. The terms, how long the loan is, and the price. So, we're lending $1,400. We're going to get that $1,400 back and 5.1% of that loan every single turn. So let's see here. Let's just do some quick math. 1,400 times 0.051. 71.4. So with this loan, we're going to make 71.4 monies for 2 turns and the loan back. So, not bad. We'll make a little over 10%, yeah? Works out pretty nice. So, we're going to issue that loan. We have loans per turn. The loan now goes into borrowers, meaning this is a loan now in effect. If there's any debts, meaning a loan is overdue, it's overpaid, they're not going to pay it back, we're going to have to make a decision about that. We can, by and large, either tell them to cash out the property and give us back our money, or we can take the property. And then in process is if we told someone to take the property, it would pop over in process and it would show that it's being worked on. Okay? So credits and investments are going to be the premier spots you're going to hang out in. Let's talk about the next real big step is upgrades. We can upgrade all these facilities. You might have noticed this icon we kind of passed over. Every department, every button here can be upgraded. When you upgrade it, there is a what does this do for us? A little blurb about what the department even is about, and then the requirements. Every single upgrade is going to require some level of headquarters upgrades and some other resources. If it's money or gems or furs or tobacco or incense or whatever. I'll just show you another one just so we're square. Same deal. What does this do for us? What's the upgrade? And then the requirements. Getting these upgraded is pretty important in my opinion because it also allows for more staff. More staff allows for better science. So that's pretty cool. Let's take a look now that I mentioned that. What would it take to upgrade a headquarters? 1 headquarters. Duh. 2 regions and some money. Now, we only control 1 region, so let's go back to the map. And as mentioned before, we now have a little... come on, dude. We don't have a lock icon here anymore. We actually have our bank logo. I think that's our bank logo? I don't know. But the thing is, it's not a lock sign anymore. So, we have control of 1 region, and that's kind of all there is to that. What we can do is we can unlock another region for money, or we can go to war later. And let's talk about that again. Let's go back to our capital. Espionage. Here is where we can convince war to happen. The country does not favor us well enough. It doesn't really like us well enough to begin with. So war's not really going to happen right now. We won't worry about that too much. Turn 1 has elapsed. We've done our investments. We've done our credits. A couple of options we have at this juncture. If you do want to steal up another territory, we could come all the way up here and grab Brittany or something. That would give us another singular territory and we can start upgrading. Or, since this is your first game, let's just hit next turn. We take this real slowly. Okay. Another turn has passed, which means another season has elapsed. So again, turns are seasons, not years. We got a little green backer behind investment. Oh, wow, this is a nice investment. We have a lot of money here. This is a good amount of purchase, and it produces iron. So I'm going to purchase that, and we're going to go to industry so we can check it out. This is going to produce us 717 iron a turn, which we can then either leave it alone or turn it into weapons. And gosh darn it, we're going to turn it into some weapons. Over here back in real estate, we can kind of see that the value of our house has appreciated. So we could sell it and get a little bit of a profit. I like to hang on to it. 750 monies a turn is a lot of money early game. But you could really treat this game like a property flipper kind of a thing. Buy some property, sell it, whatever. To be absolutely honest, I don't think the game's mature enough for that, but you could totally do that. Alright, we got one more turn on this. There's a 0.1% chance this thing's going to default. I'm just going to skip another turn. Boom. Another investment opportunity. Stonecutter's Camp produces stone. Purchase. Credits. So I'm going to check borrowers, and it's gone now. This tells me that they paid off the term of the loan. We got our money back. Oh, this will be a really good example. Loan defaults, 45%. This is a very risky loan. I'm just going to go ahead and issue it. I bet you any money, the star is maybe the rank points. But again, something that's not really explained. So in one turn, we'll see if that defaults. Now, let's go back to our armory, where we actually have materials to make stuff now. So, we produced iron. Because of the auto craft, it turned the iron immediately into halberds. Halberds? Halberd? Braids? Whatever. Frickin' spears with an axe at the end, okay? Halberds. Halberds? Halberds. Halberd. Yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, in our little information thing, we do get an upgrade, or notification that Research Secure Citadel is complete. If ever we need to figure out what that is, reduces manager's salaries. Excellent sauce. Good stuff. With the armory, I think I mentioned the exchange before. Now is when we could sell these halberds for money if we want to. So the value of these halberds are 1,731. We could sell it as is. We could also sell civilian goods if we wanted to sell like stone. Stone is a civilian good, not a military good. So this will sell just the civilian stuff. Also luxury goods. This will sell everything. This will sell what we have selected. Okay? 1,731, like I mentioned, is summarized right here in resources. And if I pull this down, we can see a lot of information if we want the nitty-gritty without having to dig around. So this game does a pretty good job summarizing stuff for you to digest information easily. It just sometimes doesn't tell you what that information means. Oh man, there's so much to talk about this game because there was so much confusion I had when we started. But that's okay. This game's a lot like I mentioned before, Imperialism, if you've seen it on my channel or anywhere else. A solid turn-based game. Plays really nicely, but a lot of ideas here. I think we're going to make this a two-parter. We've already grasped a lot of the basics, and what I've already covered so far is enough of the user interface and how to get things moving. We'll have another episode that's going to cover war, acquiring more licenses, probably more research, and then loan defaults and such. So, thank you all for joining me. Name's John Megacycle. This is an intro to Evil Bank Manager, and I hope to catch you next time. Hey there, guys, gals, fans, and pals. Thanks for checking out my video. I also want to take a moment to thank all my supporters and donators, and if you'd like to join up with me and game with my crew, all the information to get connected is in the description below. Thanks again, and I hope to catch you next time.